Hello and welcome to the STRIcast. Ahead of the prestigious Saudi Cup this weekend, I sat down with Colin Lyons, STRI Arabia's general manager, to take a look behind the scenes at the preparation that takes place for the richest horse race in the world. So to kick things off, in the run-up to race season, what does this look like? What goes into the closed season preparations?
Yeah, so numerous things, Ollie. The minute our existing or our current season finishes, we immediately go into an off-season review and assessment. And it covers a multitude of things from soil testing to in a bit to be able to plan our track renovation and maintenance for the next season. We look at facility upgrades and whether or not they impact our track, safety measures and rail repairs, fencing issues, and addressing any potential hazards that might have popped up during current season. Obviously, we go into another fairly intricate equipment inspections, look at starting gates, photo finish systems, etc., to ensure that they're all in a smooth and functioning and operational place for the next season. I suppose with all of that in mind, I suppose with us as STRI, our major component is the track itself. So we would, on an ongoing basis, with an in-house lab, test all of our soil qualities periodically to understand nutrient levels and pH values, balance, in a bit to be able to write our scope of works for the next season, and any adjustments or amendments that need to be made to the track to get it to optimum. That's been ongoing for the last 4 years. It's something we've learnings from every season as we go along, and we put these checks and balances in place in order to make the next season as successful as possible.
And has an increase in the season meant that you've had to do anything differently?
Oh, certainly. Extending the season in somewhere like Saudi Arabia, given the bespoke nature and cool season grasses that we use on the track, has some significant effects on how we plan things. Obviously, environmentally and climatically, we're always at the mercy of weather, and to extend seasons and race earlier in December, where we would historically be January, means we have to find cultivars and seed selections that are capable of dealing with those more harsher temperatures. And again, for the same token, extending it past where we would normally finish, which is in March, has the same ramifications in terms of finding something that's tolerant enough to be able to, one, germinate in time, but two, grow in a manner that's fit for purpose where international horse racing is concerned. So there's quite a number of factors. There's obviously environmental and sustainable issues too, and the quantity of water required to be able to keep that plant in an optimum condition on an ongoing basis. But yes, certainly a lot of planning and a lot of future planning for us, Ollie, in terms of what we do next year, because our challenges and the season will get extended time and time again. But we've been doing a lot of research over the last number of years, and particularly around our cultivar selection, in a bit to be able to succeed and extend that for the Jockey Club of Saudi Arabia.
So for the Saudi Cup then, how does this differ compared to events in other places like the UK or the US?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I suppose people even close to the industry would say grass is grass, and it doesn't matter where it is. I suppose it's different for numerous reasons. But technically speaking, from a grass and racing perspective, but just the location and the venue, and King Abdullah's racetrack in Riyadh, unlike tracks around the UK, and you take some of the bigger meets like the Grand National or the Epsom Derby, the Kentucky Derby or Breeders' Cup in the US, all iconic venues, but all with their own nuances and track behaviors, and Riyadh is no different. So, prize money, for instance, is a big difference in terms of what Saudi Arabia brings and the Saudi Cup brings to Riyadh. I suppose the Saudi Cup is relatively new, but has gained huge international attention by attracting horses and trainers and jockeys from various countries. And while, races in the UK and US also attract international jockeys, the Saudi Cup's significant prize money has a major draw for top talent, which makes it really, really interesting for us. Our track has to be in really optimum condition in a bid to be able to in the first hand invite these people here, but to get them racing on it and for them to be happy with it. I suppose timing as well would be a little bit different. We run in February, which is, because of international race meets, allows those that top talent of horses and riders to be able to come to Riyadh in February and race. So yeah, numerous different differences, and technically speaking, what we're running on is very, very bespoke, and it's the first and only cool season turf grass in the Middle East, which would be the major difference. Those horses will be used to running on the particular type of grass, but not on the particular sand types or the watering techniques. So there's quite considerable differences, but they're very interesting ones.
And with the track being so unique, like you say, have you noticed any improvements over the last 5 years from year to year?
Yes, yeah, there absolutely is. Again, for us, having been involved since the implementation of this turf track in Riyadh, we've learned as the track has evolved. We've begun to understand the requirements around it. We understand what jockeys and trainers are actually looking for. And those involvements, just in terms of technologically speaking, the integration of some of the irrigation systems and the programming around what we would use, the cultivar selection, which we touched on earlier, and ongoing research and development into new and improved cultivars, to offer better resistance to disease, pests, environmental stresses like the temperatures of potentially far bigger than any European or American track. I suppose we've got a much better understanding the sustainable practices and what we should be putting in place in terms of watering techniques and irrigation efficiencies, and managing soil health in an arid environment like that as well is something we've got a big grasp on. We've been active in the region for many years, across numerous GCC countries, but this one has been particularly interesting because we're there every year, and we're there full time every year, collecting data, understanding the track, and that data is key to giving us and helping us with informed decisions to decision making. And that at STRI, all of our decision making is generally and historically data driven, and that's what we've taken for the last 4 years, and it's ever evolving. It will always continue to do so, Ali, and we'll continue to move with it, with our on-site R&D or in-house laboratory, to be able to best select materials, technological devices, management tools, to make that track as the best track it could possibly be.
If you come across any difficulties, how do you go about overcoming them?
I suppose turf horse racing on cool season grasses in the Middle East will face various challenges. In any case, you have to take into account, I don't think we've touched on some of this earlier, but environmental conditions, water scarcity, the need for sustainable turf management. And I suppose our way of overcoming those difficulties is by using innovative solutions and strategic management to, the climate. For instance, again, we go to R&D and look at cultivars and seed selections that are best fit for purpose. Intense heat, limited water availability. Species that can deal with that type of environment. Water scarcity can be a massive challenge there. We're lucky that we have our own in-house and on-site reverse osmosis plant that caters for the water needs for the track. That water quality can ebb and flow in terms of incorrect pH levels, but we can address that on site, and something that we've had to learn and teach ourselves and all of the guys on site, and how to deal with that in terms of its filtration and its pH amendments if necessary. Salinity can be, we're very lucky insofar as that our water source is quite clean and near potable when it gets to us, so we're in a good place there. And again, disease and pest management, high humidities, unusual bugs, fungal diseases because of temperatures, and the stresses involved in cutting and mowing, and all of the cultural practices that we put into place in a bid to get racing to optimum, all have knock-on effects to the health and quality of the turf. So again, I suppose that some of the challenges as well would have to talk about, other than the technical, but cultural considerations, specialist equipment required, and how easy it is logistically to get it from one part of the world into Saudi Arabia. And even if it's in Saudi Arabia, it's the logistical challenges of getting it from one part of one region to another. So there's numerous different things that over time we've begun to learn. We navigate, and that's why going back to the earlier conversation about what we put in place in the off season. It's all of these and challenges that we see forthcoming, and that's whether or not we need a specialist piece of kit, something that's unusual and that might have problems at customs, etc. And we do that with really, really close stakeholder engagement. We've really positive relationship with the Jockey Club of Saudi Arabia, and we're always engaging in as transparent communication and addressing all of these issues and concerns in a bid to have the best possible and successful outcome at the end of every season. So numerous challenges, but we've hit them. We've overcome them. I'm sure we'll continue to meet more, but as the longer we spend at it, the easier these challenges are easier to overcome.
So you touched on sustainability. What does this actually look like in terms of the track?
Yeah, interesting question, and it's obviously a challenging place, particularly with the quantity of water, stroke nutrients, etc., that might be required in a harsh environment like that. But we do really look at implementing efficient irrigation practices. We don't water for the sake of it, even though it's available, etc. We monitor that soil moisture on an ongoing basis, in a bid to maintain it at optimum. However, save water if necessary. No point overwatering a surface for the sake of it. I suppose that water conservation goes into, again, the bespoke design type of track it is. As mentioned earlier, it's a cool season grass growing in the Middle East, but only operational from December until March. Many in the industry would say, why wouldn't we put in a warm season grass, keep it all year long, and just transition? Had we embarked upon that journey, we'd have to provide inputs and water for that from March until September, until we're renovating again. Our track is doesn't take any inputs from March until September. It doesn't take any additional watering. So there's sustainability built into that. Horses won't race from generally April onwards, and that's for numerous reasons. The weather starts to get really, really hot. The summers can touch 50 degrees Celsius. It's not appropriate to take a horse or a jockey out into that type of environment and race them. So we've been sustainable from the beginning in our approach and methodology around the provision of the track, the turf track in Riyadh, simply because we choose an option whereby we're not having to put inputs into it and water it when it's not necessary. Again, we look at things like soil health. Mentioned earlier, we test on an ongoing basis, and we continue to amend that in our end of year review, and adding the amendments to better improve the soil structure and the nutrient availability, the water retention values of it, all in a bid to provide the most robust turf health possible. I suppose one key point on sustainability is we do endeavour to use an integrated turf management approach. We're under no legislation currently with what we use, but we try really, really hard to come as close to where the European Parliament and the sustainable use and removal of plant protection products is under the watchful eye at the moment, and we try to adhere to the reductions and our removal of a lot of those products that the EU is embarking upon as well. So it's quite a efficient track from an inputs perspective. But again, through research, through soil amendments and continuous testing and data, it allows us and informs us as to how to do that, so that we can have a more nutrient retentive surface, less water, less inputs, and healthier sward. Other things we're embarking upon there, waste management. We're looking at and scaling recycling of clippings, and not just from the track itself, but from the wider landscape around the site at Riyadh. And we hope that it's something that will evolve over time and contribute to reducing more environmental footprints and turf management operations. The track is 4.1 hectares, is quite big, so the deployment of electrical implements and devices is still in its infancy for something of that size, but it's something we're looking at closely and talking to our client about in terms of solar to feed power banks and banks of more energy efficient and electric vehicles in time to come. It's new there for us, but it's something that's been looked at favourably, and it's something we're embarking upon very, very shortly. Again, the renewable energy, will be part of what will ever power those implements in the future. So it's an interesting time. It's quite an efficient track as it is, when we want to get it as efficient as possible, and we've already proven that we can show large water and input savings based upon our soil structure and the current operating procedures on the track itself.